Hey, good
Unmuted.
morning.
Hey.
All right, where are we? It is March 20th of 2025. I guess it's a Thursday, right?
Yeah. It's a
Welcome to the
Thursday.
Dev Talk Show. I'm Chris Gomez here with Rich Ross,
Hey, morning.
and we have we've spent some time lately working with the ASP.NET Auth. Um, I mean, using Blazor, but also we're just focusing on external logins, which you could really use with any of the ASP.NET frameworks. But today we're going to shift gears. And last year we had proposed working on an app that would be like a user group management, or really, I would say it's more public facing, for a user group that basically has sessions every month and needs a way to post those sessions, notify people about them, and then have them sign up to come to the session. And certainly, I think a lot of groups use like products for that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are products out there to make all that happen.
Yeah.
Some free, some for license, what have you, or
Yep.
Different options.
Yep. But this was a way to explore a lot of technologies that are new to me, for sure. And I remember that we, for one thing, we've spent a lot of time on this show using the Blazor web app template since .NET 8, I think. I'm trying to remember when the Blazor web app template came out, and that was with the shift to render modes and what was being called Blazor United for a little while. And so we really concentrated on that template. But what we did with this project was use the Blazor WebAssembly standalone, which is not, I mean, it's still Blazor, but it is not, a server. You don't have to deploy it on a server. Like Blazor web app template at its heart, you have to deploy on a server, even if you choose to use WebAssembly for your interactivity.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to try the WebAssembly standalone template, because that is more of what some people are looking for, which is I just want a bunch of static files out there. I just want a static web server, and it all runs on the client. And it was fun. That worked. We deployed it with static web apps, if I remember correctly. I even think there was a show where, just to see it work, I think I threw it on GitHub pages, just threw the files there just to see it. So
just to make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had we made some progress with that, and part of in figuring out the arc of the show, we don't have seasons. That's something we probably might want to think about, right? Because then it could be say, well, this is a season of, even though I do track the milestones of how many years we've been doing this, and we are in our 5th year. So
yeah,
there's that.
I know, it's crazy.
Starting way back when, but I think one of the things we thought of is it would be good for us to build something over the course of time on streams. And I think part of that is, Chris and I have been talking about, well, there are pieces of this that architecturally or focused on the Azure side of things that we want to figure out and learn and share. Some of it that's good for both of us, because I always feel, as an architect, you need to be able to understand how things are and how things really work and what all the knobs and switches are, because that gives you a better conversation with those that you're trying to help understand to build for it. So that, for me, there's definitely a reason to go down this path. And then I think using an application helps us get from a complete story, right, beginning to end. I think of some of the other streams that we kind of watch around this, like Jeff in his stream. He's building awesome apps over there, and he's built 2 or 3 of them. When you think of Tags Apps and Aspirify,
yeah,
the website.
There was Clip Talk, right? Is that what that was called? I'm trying to remember now. And now there's even a CMS application called SharpSite.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's interesting because we can't spend that amount of time doing that. So the question is, well, can we really build an app that does something like that? But I think part of it is The other one that I think we both kind of liked and was a great example of what could be done in like an hour and change kind of setting is Burke Learns Blazor, right? And that's a whole series that was done. I think it was done on the .NET channel on YouTube. You can go check that out. But they basically converted a Node.js application, single page application, to a Blazor app running on static web apps. And I think using well, I think it was definitely on static web apps. Which means it would have to have been a WebAssembly backend on that. So
Yeah. I don't. I'm trying to remember if it was long enough ago, but yes, you're right.
It would have been 8. They didn't. They definitely were done before 9 shipped.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, they spent many weeks. Every Friday they got together and they did one. And hopefully, if we do maybe one a week or maybe a couple a week, we could certainly build something out in a decent amount of time. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, this was it. This is the playlist for it, and I was just going all the way back to see. It looks like it's set in order. So this was the first one, porting a Vue.js app to Blazor, and then they started by setting up CI/CD for static web apps, like you said. Build an API, and just kept going. So
yeah, and I liked it. That was, I think they did their show on Friday, and my Saturday morning in the gym, part of that time in the treadmill was spent watching this, right? Because it was a really cool thing. But yeah, so we did start one, and I think I think what we want to do is maybe organize this a little bit, and maybe some of the thoughts around what it is that we want to do, and come up with what might make sense for a certain amount of time, like an hour's block. And we'll get better at this over time, right? We haven't done a sprint or a what do we call that? What's the amount of work that we can get done in 60 minutes?
Right. Yeah. I guess it's like some form of Pomodoro, but I'm not sure what it is exactly.
And that's kind of how I, in my mind, as I was driving home last night from user group, was kind of thinking about in that way, right? It's 2 Pomodoros. Can we, or by the time we get started, maybe 1, but the idea is, can we go ahead and do, can we do something in that same kind of space? So that's a good question. So who's Burke? So Burke Holland, I believe, he's over on the .NET team, and he has done. He's been, as I mentioned, he did a website that is it's the Quick Links website, right? Where gathering all of the short URLs, or gathering all the URLs and putting them all under one short URL title so that you can find them. So if you think about this show or a meeting or a project you're working on, it's a way to collect all of that and be able to share it with people. Give them a short link to say, hey, here's all the content.
And we actually built it.
Yeah, and like we were just saying, this was a series that John Galloway put together with him, and John Galloway hosts many of the streams on the .NET channel, which is DOTNET on YouTube. Hosts the ASP.NET Community Stand-Up most weeks, and then some other shows too. And they just decided to put this weekly show together where Burke Holland, who is he's on the team, right? He's on the ASP.NET team, but maybe didn't work in the Blazor space, or maybe because a lot of people on the ASP.NET team might work on the APIs, or they actually work on the support for other front-end frameworks, because there is that support. There's templates, get started with React and a web API, or get started with Vue and a web API. And so basically this was kind of a way to, by him porting an app and saying, hey, I don't know this framework, I don't know Blazor, then that's a way, I guess, you teach others by going through the process live, then
Right.
Oh,
And
okay.
you may have seen other videos he's done. He has some great GitHub Copilot videos, and how you can use Copilot to enhance what you're building and your development process. So, would definitely say look for him on the .NET channel and Visual Studio, as well as the Visual Studio Code channel. I think is the other one he does a lot
Oh,
of those
okay.
on.
I don't know how I got it in my head that he was on
I did as well.
a dev team. Okay. All right.
Cool. So that's Burke. That's why that's. So we're gonna try and do something.
That was the
similar with
inspiration, right?
application. Yeah, exactly. And before we dive into it, I do have one thing I'm gonna ask. And Chris, before I ask you the question, I'm gonna leave this up for folks to chat and drop their thoughts in it. But just look at the camera when you give your response, okay? Because like this, there's a master plan around this, and it's probably silly anyway. But all right, here's the question: when you build a new computer, what's the first app you install?
Huh. When I build a new computer, the first app I install. I don't do it very often. Let me think for a second. So I think now the first app that I install when I build a new computer, at least if I was going to start now, is probably Chocolatey. I haven't done this in a few years, though. And the reason is that I don't remember if I keep it in GitHub. There's the Scratchpad part of GitHub. It's not called Pages.
Gists?
Yes, the GitHub Gist. There's a Scratchpad that I keep, and it's essentially a batch file where it just installs a bunch of stuff right away. And I don't remember what's in that list.
Package something to go ahead and do that. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't updated that thing in years though, because I haven't built and installed a new machine in a while. Because now I might switch it up a little bit.
Okay. I'm kind of curious. I know we've got some folks online chiming in with some comments, and that's great. Throw in I'd love to hear your thoughts and throw it in the chat what your first app you install on the computer is. There's a larger plan behind this, but I will. You may see that come up later, but I appreciate you giving it some thought, Chris. For me, it's Git. Git's the first thing I install because everything else kind of comes off of that. Once that's on my computer, I can get whatever project I need. I can get whatever applications I want to get access to. So for me, that's always the starting app.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I have that list somewhere.
Oh, there you go.
Where's my little chocolatey list? Because I think Git's in there. I think browsers are in there. Because I still tend to install Firefox and Chrome, even though I'm using I use Firefox a little bit, and I don't think I even bother with Chrome at all anymore. Day to day. If I'm doing development, that's a different story. Then I might test in all the different browsers. VS Code's probably in that list. Huh?
I might have messed the screen up. Sorry. Yeah, VS Code is top of the list for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So if we think about, let's see, I'm just trying to get a sense of what I'd like to do is maybe we start. So I want to kind of do a little bit of planning on this because I think that's important. And part of that is, hey, there's some project tools that we can use inside of GitHub, which is where our project codenamed Orbital is located. And that's all open source and out there for you to see. And I think we'll have a project there too and make that public as well, because I think that's kind of important to see. So I probably should share my screen because I haven't done that yet. Chris, you look frozen.
No, I was just looking. I actually found that. I found that batch file.
Okay.
So it was just interesting
cool.
to me. The thing about it is that it goes stale too. Where if I started today, I might make different choices. But anyways.
No, it does go, yeah. And it does kind of rotate. And it was always one of those things that, you know, how do I get up and running as quick as possible, right? We always have ways to store the data. We always have ways to store the projects between, you know, for me, it's OneDrive and GitHub for both of those. But, you know, the apps are always the thing that took forever to get you back up and be productive.
Right.
So,
I mean, I think you're right. On a development machine, certainly Git is kind of your gateway into everything else. But yeah, it was interesting to think about, because you know what happens is I think because it's something that I do so rarely that I keep telling myself, boy, I wish this was automated. And then it's a hard thing to automate. But no, I agree. That's an interesting idea, though.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the comments. Greenish pepper. Always getting stuck and need to add what's missing. And absolutely, right? So you keep going back and adding things to the list, and that list gets very, very long, essentially. So
this is a feature of GitHub here. This is projects.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is so GitHub projects, and projects in and of themselves. If we let's open that, because it kind of goes out to, you can have, so this is our GitHub account for the Dev Talk Show, and the GitHub account has the capability to do projects inside of here. Now it could be at, right now it's just at this account level, but if you're part of an enterprise organization, you could have an organization with their own set of projects inside of there, and then you'll have obviously repos underneath it. So the projects can be done without necessarily saying, hey, this is pointing to a specific repo. It might point to multiple repos to pull that project together. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I see. I have another comment here. Like, isn't this the truth from Greenish Pepper? Also editing the environment variables or path. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Because I do over time, I often set up a tools folder, where a lot of common tools that maybe I don't use every day kind of get stored. Like for example, FFmpeg is something that I use every so often to convert video around. I don't use it every day. I might not even use it for 6 months. And then all of a sudden I'll just go nuts on it for a while. And it's nice to just be able to just type it and it just works. So
that is cool. I like that. Okay. That's a good thought. So I will factor that into to my thoughts as well. Cause there's, like I said, there's a larger thing I'm working on, and this feedback is extremely helpful. I don't know if that probably didn't come across. I don't know if you hear my team's dings when I get messaged.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
In fact, I think
so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We were dealing with why wasn't was there a reason why we weren't seeing audio from our desktops didn't seem to be playing through StreamYard. I don't know. I don't think we figured that out.
No. And
one day I tried to show a video and you had said it wasn't playing, so, or at least the audio wasn't coming through. So
yeah. And I never went back to check, see if it made it through the stream or not.
Yeah.
I did hear audio when you were playing when you were doing the video
just
little
now.
Bit ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
So, but that was good. So you've got multiple different views: task view, table view, board view, roadmap view. I'm going to stick with board view. I kind of like the Kanban board aspect of, hey, these are the things that are on our list to do. These are the things that we're working on. These are the things that are already done, right? And they've got different color progressors as well. But you can define your own of these, right? Maybe we create a new one and we give a new column when we call it something like backlog stuff that isn't even in, the current aspect of our sprint. And you can assign a color of that, and just we'll just call this more things to do.
Okay. Yeah, so you can customize this board.
Yep.
Or this layout.
Yep. And so we do that. I've got it here, but I don't need it there, so I can drag it all the way to the front, and now it kind of has that order to it, right? And I'm kind of going through this, but I'm going through this in a way that just in how I've been using it for some personal projects, and how we might want to use it for the Orbital project that we've got here. I may, this isn't the be all end all for how you use it. A tool like this and planning tool, DevOps tools, they have a lot of flexibility. So a lot of it comes down to, well, how do you organize your projects? How do you work on your projects? So you may see people do things slightly differently. This is how I've started to pull the tools together and in my mind start to think about what might be the right way to use it. So ask questions, drop comments, drop chats, give us your thoughts on how it is you might use these things. And you can create multiple views of what we got here as well. So we'll save that. We've saved our project. But I think what we want to do is have something, essentially. So let's go ahead and put a new item in here. We'll start at the beginning. This is... we know we want to build out a user. I'm sorry, not a user. Let's just call it section functionality for now, right? And when I do this, it gets either created as a draft, or it can get created as a new issue. If I create it as a draft, it's just going to drop it inside of this box here. If I say, let's see. Because this is one of those things we've got to do. I can create it as a new issue. And if I do that, it's going to say, well, if it's an issue, it has to be bound to a repository, because that's kind of where all the issues live. Unlike projects that kind of live outside of a repo and have connections into that repo, an issue doesn't. An issue right now, the way things are structured, would only essentially have that. It has to reside inside of that. So we're not going to use that one. We're actually going to use Project Orbital and blank issue. Yep, new issue from scratch. Make a bit database decision. So you see the in this view the interface changes a little bit because we're kind of in that issue mode and having the fields associated with that. So we can create it, and then now it's here. And you can see they're a little bit different. One's still in draft. One is sitting here with a connection and the item number for Orbital. If we click this, we get that same window that we were used to seeing when we're doing issues inside of GitHub. Essentially.
Oh, okay. Does that make it an issue?
Choices. It does. That's why it has a number assigned here. This one does not. Right. So if we go over to, if we go ahead and open, I do have it open. It's here. And we go to issues. We have just the one issue to make a database decision, because that's all we've really said is assigned to this repo. And then the other one around session creation is not there. It's still sitting out here as draft. Cool. We have a question. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So Waleed says, would you consider doing a live stream in the future about Blazor and progressive web apps? It would be great to explore offline support and caching strategies in more depth. So this particular application, we did choose the standalone WebAssembly, which I think is the gateway to a progressive web app. I haven't looked into it, but I do believe there's documentation on offline support. I don't know how, because in just in the web world we have things like service workers and the various local caching strategies like, and I know that they've changed over time, but local storage or IndexedDB and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I am not aware of how or what, if anything, is provided in the Blazor landscape to help. And the interesting thing about this app is I can see value in offline support because if you've been recently and gotten the updated schedule, we're not talking about data that changes a lot, or at least it doesn't necessarily change rapidly. So shouldn't you be able to open the app, even if for some reason you don't have connectivity? Shouldn't you be able to open it and see the session that you're planning to go to? Maybe even get the address. Like, what if you're in a place with, for whatever reason, you just don't have connectivity? Like you're in some crappy spot at the airport and you're trying to tell the driver, here's the address of the place I need to get to. But I can't because this app won't open, even though the address certainly hasn't changed. So, no, I think those are interesting topics that can be that make sense even for this application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Good points. Cool. Yeah, I didn't want to leave that one hanging out there because that's a good thing to think about for the future for sure.
No, that's a great question from Waleed. I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. Have we mentioned this new application? Well, I think we, just to, I guess, go back, we go here, this new application, right? It is just an idea around something that we can use to manage local community or user group type sessions. So at least for us here, we both had a local user group last night in the Philly area here, Philly.net, which is one that Chris and I both belong to. And that user group has essentially monthly meetings. So a way of defining what the monthly meeting schedule is going to be, who's going to be speaking at it, what's the topic, so a short paragraph around the topic, maybe some of the content that was shared or links to that content that was shared. And, if we think further out, maybe things like pictures or whatever from the event to kind of share and make it a little bit more social and community related, right? People, as those sessions are planned out, having the capability to register for an event, say, hey, I'm going to attend this. Or for you're a speaker, say, hey, I'm going to be the speaker at this event. So that's a rough idea of, the functionality and what we think this is going to have. And it's just an idea, one of probably a good 3 or 4 that we were tossing around of, hey, is this really what we want to build out? Or, we just need an app we want to go through the process of building an app. What's a good idea that might make sense that could potentially come in handy? And again, this is all open source. And that's part of the reason why we're going down the path of defining the issues and the work that we want to do, because being open source, it's a good opportunity to try some different things out and, participate. So there's always that option too.
So
what's
where?
Cool? Go ahead.
Where's the place where we sort of brainstorm the feature ideas? Because, for example, I think it's nice to we're saying things out loud here, right? And what's interesting is, so I started typing in a Markdown document, and it's almost interesting to watch Copilot like throw the feature ideas out there. Yeah,
that would be fun to see.
Do you want to see that now?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Let me show you this. This is so I'm not trying to say that this is the place to do it. I don't know that it is. That's something that we can certainly work through, but let me share this here. Okay. So we have, as you saw in the repo, all we really have is just this README that says it's a user group meeting management application. And then if I do nothing more than click overview, or at least a second ago it did it,
Yeah, it's a little camera shy.
Oh, how weird, because it even said like, so like user authentication. I was like, that's not really. I mean, yeah, sure. Uh, user authentication and authorization for yeah,
Yeah.
administrators
So we have different roles.
to change content. We'll just call it that. But that's not really what I was looking for. I mean, I guess that's not wrong.
Right.
But this is kind of what I was thinking. Is I said, okay, schedule meetups, meetings, and with date, time, and location. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But then the next one was going to be, I forget what I was going to say. There was display speaker information. But the one that I had typed, what I thought was interesting was I had said um, I think I had said show. So again, like I said, a lot of these ideas will get consolidated, but
Right.
like show a schedule of upcoming meetings. But then I think what somebody had said out loud was, and again, I know some of these things are a little orthogonal, but like offline support
There you go.
to view meeting information without being connected. The other one that I thought of while you were talking, because you had said it, was allow direct capture of photos during the meeting. So what I'm thinking here is like, imagine if you're on the site and there was a photo button, and you could, and it has access to your camera, so you take the picture and it just adds it right there. There's no friction. There's none of this like, oh, okay, I took a picture. Now hold on, let me go to the site and then let me drag the picture over here, or let me pick a picture out of it. It's just just zero friction. Add the photo, right?
Yep.
You had mentioned some other interesting things about how like I guess I could say it is well, look at this. Allow users to take notes during the meeting. How interesting would that be if you took your own notes?
Yeah.
Because what I was actually going to say, what I was really going to say was I was going to say allow direct, I don't know, maybe this has to be refined, direct link to meeting notes and materials.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it directly link, where right now it's kind of a multi-step process, right?
Yeah.
So today Philly.net has a GitHub repo, and we're doing this very ad hoc, very manual process of having a README file for each meeting. I admit that's not a blog, that's not centralized, that's not super easy, but it's low friction for us.
Right.
And so basically the speaker, because it's a GitHub repo, the idea has always been that if you're an upcoming speaker, you could send a pull request and we could just say, hey, your notes are right in there, or vice versa. Because a lot of times, how many times do people come to the meetup and they'll raise their hand and say to the speaker, are these slides going to be available anywhere? And the speaker hasn't thought about that yet. Right. And it's like, well, yeah, we could put them in this central place. Right. Is this code going to be available anywhere? Yeah, put it in this central spot. And again, if the meeting app reduced the friction by basically saying, I'm looking at the meetup, I'm seeing the pictures that were taken during it, and here are the links to relevant materials. It doesn't have to be GitHub based, but it could be.
Sure.
And in fact, it might be interesting if it supported Markdown in such a way that it's GitHub friendly. Like, sure, the link can go off anywhere you want into the internet, but if it goes to a Markdown file or a Markdown link, then we'll render it nicely. And
because we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the interesting thing to me is there's often times where that happens during the meetup or what I do sometimes is I will actually just take notes. If I find that the speaker is sharing a lot of links, but they're sharing it on a projector, which isn't super helpful, people
Mhm.
are going to want this stuff later. So I will just like kind of start copying them down as fast as I can.
Right. This is good. This is
Yeah.
good thoughts,
You
good
know how
ideas.
during a user
Yeah.
group meeting, you see a lot of people when a certain slide comes up, take a picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And just
wonder.
capture that.
I see it all the time. I see somebody they just want to take a quick picture, and I get it. But I've thought a lot about when that picture's taken. I mean, now, granted, if it's a slide, if it's really a slide, then maybe the slideshow gets added. But when that
Mhm.
picture's taken, here's where you need speaker permission and so on. Could all of this be turned into something that are artifacts on the meeting itself? Even community based, right? Where somebody says, "Hey, I took this picture." Oh, I don't know. Again, there's things to think through about pictures getting posted.
Right. But if you're posting a picture and it's during the meeting, including the timestamps, almost like you can get a timeline of all of what people thought were the important bits from the talk.
Yeah. That would be interesting if you had a recording and you took that timestamp and then just went ahead and tried to match up the YouTube time so that it would go straight to it. Not quite. I mean, I could see how that's possible.
Sure. There's always a little flubbing
Now,
in
those
there
are
between.
Yeah, those are way ahead. But I guess the point was, what I thought was funny was just coming in here and saying, okay, like this. It just like supplied an overview. It's like, here, Orbital is a user group meeting application that allows users to view upcoming meetings, view meeting details, view speaker information. The application is designed to be used by user group administrators to manage. Yeah, and so you just hit tab and you're like, okay, thanks, Copilot, because that is Copilot doing that, right? I mean, I think it is. I don't know. I guess it is. Oh, okay. Yeah, I find that interesting. So I'm not sure where we capture this. I don't know if these eventually become tasks on the project board, except maybe broken down to what you're actually going to do. So. Oh, are you muted?
Oh shoot, I did mute.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry about that. What I really need is a cough button, not a mute button, because I do that because I have a cough and then I forget to turn it back off again.
Yep.
So I mean, we could take, if we think of what we have here around session functionality, right, and maybe taking some of the things that you have in those first couple of features there and include it in the list of things there. Now, I think if what I probably should do is don't go anywhere yet.
Okay.
I'm going to bring your screen back up.
Yeah, I think I'm still up there right now.
Yep, that's fair. I just needed some kind of quick copy of those notes so that I could see them, because they're going to be in a different. Your screen ends up getting smaller, and I won't be able
that's
to see
true.
it otherwise. So, so I'll put that over here. Cool. So, pick that back down. Let's go to me. Wow, that was interesting. Okay. That certainly works. So this here is, so we've got, we saw how we created an issue, and we've got this one here that if we click on it, it's just a draft. So we can put more information inside of there. But I think there's some better functionality we could get if we don't do it this way, but actually do this part here, which is essentially, convert to an issue, right? So we could basically do in 2 steps what we did on the previous one in 1 step, essentially. So let's do this. We're going to say make it part of Project Orbital. Now we get that good view of the a good view of an issue over in our GitHub repository, right? So we don't have a description on here, but this, we can say that if I edit this, oh, not that, cancel. I want to edit this because this box is where I want to put a better description. So this is, I'm going to go down this path and we may wind up backing out of it, but this is kind of what I'm thinking. So this is a listing of all, listing of the features related to sessions. And if you think about that list that you had up there, Chris, the first 3 bullets on that were, session information basically, right? Around scheduling a meeting or scheduling upcoming schedule or, well, display speaker is kind of related, right?
Yeah. So I want to know, like, how do we break this down? It's easy for me to just like throw out things that, so, there's a calendar page with all the sessions, but there's also like a history page, and then you can drill into individual sessions. Like, is that all grouped here in this issue?
You could basically say, hey, there are sub issues, and we can track those sub issues. Now, I haven't played with that feature. That's kind of a new one.
Okay.
But I think some of the things you just mentioned, just real quick, we'll come back to this, but right, having an item that is, hey, here is a, history page, boom, just drop it in there, just kind of get, no, not in, hang on. I should, I just want to create a new item. Blank. That's interesting. It's not what I was expecting.
Well, you said create new issue, right? So when you click down there, you started typing.
Right.
So go ahead and type like history page, right? And then there's a create new issue button there.
Oh, I see what it's got it. And I just want to do this.
Okay. Yeah.
Control
so boom,
enter.
Okay.
It's just there.
Because here's what's interesting now is it's easy for us to spout off this functionality, but there's a task to like when it says there, making a database decision. There's also creating these models, creating the overall data model, and I'm going to use that term very loosely.
Yep. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. So that's one of the things, that would fall under this issue that we have here, right? Because this is just talking about all the functionality. So what I want to try out, you saw how easy it was to kind of put things on the backlog there and have high level issues. But if I do this and say, hey, let's create a sub issue. Yep, it's going to be there, blank issue. And in this case, let's say, session data model, because we know we're going to need that. Let's go ahead and create it. So it's kind of, so that's interesting. So it's linked to this. So that's good. So what I wasn't sure of was if we did that, where does that sub issue reside? Like, yes. So this is almost like a, in Azure DevOps projects, we had something called like a feature or a story. And that story had tasks inside of that you could do, right? This is kind of analogous to that in that, hey, we've got some high level grouping of, we need this bit of functionality. How, what is going to be involved to kind of implement, that all the things that make this functionality complete. And a data model is one of them. So while it's listed here, what's cool is that it's also in and of itself on its own. So it could be moved into backlog status, or we could separately take this out to drop it in the to-do box. And then now somebody's actively it's on somebody's radar to actively work on. So I think given that, I think having this session functionality item and then be able to have the sub issues underneath it that get tracked here so that when this part is complete, it can basically move, that whole task can be completed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. In some respects, it's like in some models, this might be called like an epic or a
There you
feature,
go.
and
That
then
was
the
the term I was
tasks
blocking on.
underneath it. It
Yeah.
depends. I don't want to
Yeah.
pretend that everybody uses the same terms or even uses them the same way.
Yep. Totally
Because
agree.
yeah, you can work at two different places or even on two different teams and use the same agile or scrum terms and not use them the same. So and again, and then we can even have interesting arguments about what's part of agile and what's not, which
Right.
I don't want to get into. But anyways, yeah, so I think for me, part of what I'm trying to figure out is, as part of this process, there's some of the brainstorming, kind of like in fact, in domain driven design, I think there's a piece of the process called event storming, where you're kind of just getting on paper what are all the things that can happen, and that's not the same thing as things users can do. I mean, that as part of things that can happen, there could be an automated weekly newsletter that goes out by email, and there's no human doing it. It's just, oh well, that's a feature to implement, and this is the event that happens, and so what are the things that drive it, and you know so I don't know how we represent that here as something to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think of things to be done going in the backlog, right? Even if they're just high level rough sketch ideas, right? That's pretty cool. We need to capture it. I do think that's pretty cool. We need to capture it because that may be a space where I am always looking for. I'm always thinking about, well, it's an application that's great, but where can generative AI kind of help us out? And that, hey, on a routine basis, there is a process that runs and it goes and it creates a newsletter, and then it gives us back essentially, text or content for us to review and say, yeah, this is good, go send it.
Okay. Yeah. Right. No, I mean, there's an implementation of it, right? But
yeah, and it will be. It might be cool to, and here we are, we're brainstorming. That newsletter has, yes, obviously we can say, hey, this session's upcoming, and here's the the outline of what it is that you're going to see there. But maybe doing a background search and saying, hey, here are some a couple of Learn docs or some content to review that you might want to take a look at before you come and hear this session.
So something interesting about issues in GitHub, and I'm going to bring up this comment because I think it relates. It's long and it's covering a little bit of Rich's face here. It's basically saying maybe don't make data for rating the meeting live. I totally understand. Imagine that people are using this app at the meeting and they really love it, and that for whatever reason, a lot of low ratings are coming across, and it's happening live. And if you're the presenter, you may not be. That certainly could be discouraging in the moment. And I know where that's coming from is because I just went ahead and tabbed through the suggestion from Copilot, allow users to rate the meeting. So let me bring that back, bringing that back to issues. Okay. So you're brainstorming. You're going to come up with a lot of ideas. Do they end up on this board somewhere, or is it's fair to say that maybe this isn't the right product, right? Maybe there's a different product where imagine a feature to allow users to rate the meeting, but in the issue, you might have the discussion about, so here are the pros of meeting ratings. Here are the cons. And then the discussion of, even at the end, you might decide, you know what? Just not a high importance issue for our group. Like, we'll leave it on the backlog, but there are not enough pros and enough cons that we're just not going to promote it from there.
Yeah. No, I think spot on. And that's, if you look at the section that we've got here, this is, even though I'm doing this section functionality, maybe this is the wrong one, maybe going to this one makes better sense because it's a sub issue. It has a, an area for us to discuss and people to weigh in and say yes or no. And this is all part of developing out in the open, right? Being able to have the community, whether it's your work community or a broader community here out in the public, and say why things might be good or what's the right time to implement the rating. Is it after the meeting, after the meeting versus during the meeting kind of thing? And those are great thoughts to consider when pulling those features together. So I think having this kind of a doing this here and then being able to put your own comments again, because this is all public, I think would be very helpful as part of the process.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's the interesting thing is that, like, I think we're going to come up with ideas. Some of them are straightforward and obvious.
Yeah.
In the end, it's a generic place, or it's a central place where people get used to going to seeing what's coming up. When's the next Philly.net? Who's speaking? Am I going? Because
right
at the particular location, people are checked in. So, we got to know who's going. But then some of these other features that maybe are a little bit less straightforward can really use discussion, such as like, okay, so it's great that somebody at the meetup could take a picture and add it to the meeting. Now we think about all the moderation you're going to want to put into place there. And so brainstorming those ideas, because here's the thing. I don't necessarily know that it's about necessity, but you mentioned the ability to maybe bring in some AI features that we have. That's or even machine learning and so on. That could be really interesting too, because I wonder if it would be a chance to play with some fun things like, okay, so someone took a picture and they directed it to the site, but we can see from the photo information that it's not geofenced anywhere near here. So we're not going to publish it. Like, that's like one indicator of maybe many to say, well, let's hold this one for moderation. You could easily just implement the feature and say, hold them all for moderation. But then it's like, well, no, hold on. Is there an opportunity here to use machine learning AI to have safer? This picture, we are so confident it's safe that we're not going to moderate it. Famous last words for me.
Right.
But
so I'm a little leery about having it do the thing the human does. Right. So I think having the process of, I think that's a great idea of being able to take a look at the picture and looking at the content of it, saying, hey, there's, to us, or to whatever process we send it to, not to personify it, whatever process we send it to evaluate it, we're 90% confident that this is a good image. And those might be the things you look at and say, 90%? Yep. Okay. I can see that. Boom, go. And that might be the things where it's like, we're only 10% confident because of this, this, and this, and it's different color coding. It's like, that's kind of okay, but it's a little bit more thought process.
Right. And then, And then, of course, somebody will prank the site and pull something out of their gallery that's just not appropriate at all. So, flag it as early as possible, right? But so I guess that's what I'm getting at, is that the issues can be a place, perhaps, to provide the discussion. There are some basic building blocks that we haven't settled on, and some of them were mentioned in chat today. For example, we sort of stumbled into it being truly a progressive web app by being Blazor WebAssembly standalone. But we only stumbled into it, frankly, is because we said, well, we've never tried that project type before.
Right.
Yeah. It wasn't like it was thought through. But now, after reading Waleed's comment, it's like, hold on, there's a point for PWA, because, I mean, not that you can't do this. I'm going to be fair. If you build a Blazor web app, it's not that you can't do this. You would implement PW features in that template as well.
Sure.
But I feel like having chosen Blazor WebAssembly standalone just kind of for fun, like, we've almost stumbled into like, hold on, maybe that is a good call, right?
Right.
I don't know yet. I guess I don't know for sure, but
kind of the same. And I think that's why, to talk through that aspect of it. And maybe there's more to talk through than just what database we want. Maybe we really need to go back and reflect on, is is WebAssembly really the right way to go about this, or should it just be we had reasons. We had reasons when we did it.
Right.
And do we still want to go down that path?
I think in general, it's a great point, though, that no matter what you're doing with Blazor, or let's be on any web application, but we've focused a lot on Blazor here. Being able to function offline is very valuable. And I mean, there's all these web components. Well, I don't want to mix up the term web components with the real web components, but there's all these features of the web that have been built for that purpose. And it seems like it's so easy for a lot of sites to just ignore it, assuming permanent connectivity, permanent great connectivity. Like everybody in the world is at least 5G at all times, right? And that's actually not true. Now, maybe it's more true where we live. I don't know. But one thing that I know, if you're building a global website, if you're an e-commerce site that's operating around the world, these are issues you face, and you have to deal with the fact that at any moment this person could not have connectivity, and you have this opportunity to at least showcase an item to them if you can't exactly take the purchase at that moment. And if you throw that opportunity away,
right,
it's not where you want to be. You want to be in this, I'm not trying to sound like a high pressure salesperson, but how easy is it for me? I'm sitting in a cab somewhere. I lose connectivity with your store. So I just get frustrated. I go to search, which for whatever reason is working. I find another store. I find the item. I make the sale. You lost it.
Right.
So, I don't know that we talk about offline support enough in web applications. Just now that I mention it. I don't know that we talk about it enough.
So I'm going to throw out a question. You may not know the answer to this. I don't know the answer to this. So it's not a leading question, but it might be something we have to look into. If we're doing WebAssembly, there definitely is code residing on the client machine. Would state reside there as well? So we could have cached locally a list of sessions so that at least, person pulling it up on their phone can quickly get to the session that they are going to.
Yeah, I mean, the web has techniques for client-side storage. This has nothing to do with Blazor now, by the way. But
that was okay.
But yeah, that's basically it. Is that and again, the web moves so fast that I may not even be aware of some newer things. But the local storage API was invented for this purpose. And I think originally that local storage API, the thought process was store a few things client side so that when the application comes back, you don't have to connect to the web server to get them. But when you combine the local storage API, which may have a new name, I'm not sure. There was also another API that was invented, IndexedDB, but I'm not going to tell you I'm an expert in IndexedDB. So these were client-side storage capabilities. I mean, look, you can store stuff in cookies too, but you don't want them to get out of control. So then later, when the web added service workers, now you had the complete package of being able to write client-side code. Let's take Blazor out of this for a second. It's just in the end, you can write code and deliver it as a web application such that the browser will now say, okay, when I come back here, I'm going to run this code, which is essentially the combination of the JavaScript code that it might already have cached, service workers, and so on. I'm really painting with a broad brush.
Yeah.
And that is smart enough to go, hold on a second, I can't reach the site, but that's okay. We can still render based on what's stored client side. And so I feel like this is not a Blazor issue. It's not even a Blazor WebAssembly issue. It's not a Blazor server. I want to be fair. It's not the Blazor web app template is not locked out of these things.
Yeah.
It's just that It's the web itself supports it. Now, I think it would be really interesting to play with some of those features. Like these sound like some pretty useful topics as offline mode for web applications. That, you know, this isn't even, again, part of what we do here is we want to expose features and capabilities and techniques that we can all take to work.
Yep.
So just by doing this application, we may spend some time in offline capabilities just because it was mentioned, and then it kind of starts to make sense as you think about it. So
yeah, definitely.
So we're talking about offline capabilities. We're talking about real-time updating capabilities, you know. So there's a lot of technologies to look through here.
Definitely. So right now at this point, they're just captured as high-level backlog items that we can, you know, further. It's like anything in the backline, right? Or backlog, right? Somebody has a story idea and then they wind up refining the story, and then that makes it to the point of saying, hey, I think we might want to work on that. So we're iterating on our process here in real time, essentially. So
yeah, so I'm excited about using GitHub projects here. I admit I didn't, just to be fair to everybody, I didn't know this is exactly where we were headed today, which is okay.
Neither did I.
I think that we can make this show title a little clearer on YouTube. But I'm excited about this because I think one of the things that I struggle with personally, it's easier to do at work because on the job there may be both people and processes that enforce this better.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, as someone, and this happens to everybody, so I don't want to pin it on this, but as somebody who has been diagnosed with ADHD, I think it's so easy for me to tell myself over and over, hey, I really need to like jot that, I need to plan, but then like your brain just wants to jump to it. So the fun part is, for me as a lifelong developer, the fun part for me is jumping at code and features and hacking stuff together. And there, you know, for a long time it was kind of glamorous, this whole idea of just hunched over your keyboard, hacking away, solving the problem. But I don't know that it produces good software.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am not also saying the flip side of that, of like very detail oriented, step by step, like some experimentation and exploration, I think creates good software too.
Right.
But I think my weakness has always been that I start down the road and at some point I just want to just shove it all aside and say, hold on, I want to see this work. And so, and then you kind of throw something together and you've already started to make some decisions that you regret. And you look back later and say, yeah, boy, I'd really have to tear that apart to change it now. I'm interested to see how much we can short circuit my my tendency to do that here. So,
yeah. And that's part of I'm with you, because part of this, that's part of the reason for wanting to do this more. We're doing it live, but doing it more in the moment. Because I do the same thing. I found the project and like, all right, what kind of pattern do I need? Do I really need that shouldn't be here. That should be. And then you get stuck around all the things that you, instead of building something and then saying, all right, refactor later, let's just get something done.
Yeah. I wish I named something differently. Now, that's like I said, that's not to say that the ability to refactor, of course, is super important. But then I think sometimes, I mean, how many times have I looked at a code base or even a code base that I've developed that I've made refactoring an improvement hard? I made it hard because what are the various reasons I made it hard? Well, number one, perhaps this code isn't very testable. It's not very isolated. It just got implemented right in place, right at the spot that it was needed. It was implemented. It wasn't thought through that, hey, maybe I should implement this in a more modular way. And again, broad brushes here, but if it's modular, I could use it somewhere else. It could be unit testable. I could build a great integration test around this. And so, no, I've done it a million times. And so this is interesting. I was not super aware. I think I knew that projects existed, but I hadn't tried it. So that was cool. As we could see, Copilot started dropping in suggestions as well.
Yeah. And I will say, I tried it. I probably did a project using it maybe 6 months or so ago. And some of those features that we looked at today were like, I'm not sure when they came in, but I don't remember them when I did it the last time. Like the sub issue is pretty awesome. So yeah, there's some fun stuff in there. Cool.
Yeah. All right. So we're on our way. And I think what's nice about this, and I think you do too, Rich, but I appreciate the comments we got in chat, because you know what?
Mm-hmm.
As you know, sometimes I struggle with, well, what should we talk about next, right? We spent a lot of time on this, a lot of time on that. And I got really inspired by both the ideas of real-time support, you know, the community aspect of users doing something, and it might, we'll talk through the issues, but it might update the site. It might provide value. And then at the same time, the offline support. It's like, oh, wow, those are all important web topics.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we spent some good time on those. So yeah. Cool. So we've got to start, which is good.
Yep. All right. Well, we're a little past 9 a.m. here on the U.S. East Coast, which means a lot of folks might have stand up at 9. So if you are, hopefully you haven't missed it. But as we say, the show is always about just getting together, cup of coffee before stand up. And Rich, thank you for walking through GitHub projects today and starting to focus, at least me, because I'm not as great at it, on what we're really going to do here. Because there is a need for this, right? Like, the group really does need this, and there's a variety of reasons why. So
and we're just hitting the. We're going to dive in as we start building this out. There'll be other features that we'll start to see and pull together too, as we start pulling our work together and grouping things and tracking things. So it's just the start.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Awesome.
Oh wow. 11 p.m. going to sleep. Well, thank you for staying up with us.
Joining. Yeah.
And I don't know if the recent time change here in the US helped or didn't, because I know sometimes it makes it later for some folks and sometimes it makes it earlier, and that can be good or bad depending on where you live. So, and you don't have to live that far away either, because in the state of Arizona here in the United States, they don't change time. And so I have a buddy out there who I never remember exactly, like, are you 2 hours behind or 3 hours behind now? So in any case, thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you check out GitHub projects. And if you have any comments on what we talked about today, we talked a little bit about offline support. We talked about, having a community driven site. How do you schedule and manage your tasks and your projects so that you don't get ahead of yourself? Please feel free to leave us a comment in the YouTube video right down below if you're watching in the future. If not, thank you for joining us live. Really appreciate that. And for everybody else, for Rich, I'm Chris, and we will see you all next time on the Dev Talk Show.